The heavy, polished oak doors of Azure swung open with an almost reverent hush, ushering me into a world of hushed elegance and understated opulence. The air itself seemed to shimmer with the scent of expensive perfume and the promise of a celebratory evening. Crystal chandeliers cascaded light onto tables draped in pristine white linen, adorned with delicate floral arrangements in gleaming silverware. Soft jazz music wove through the gentle murmur of conversation, creating a sophisticated symphony that typically thrilled me. But tonight, a knot of unease tightened in my stomach. Tonight was Michael's 42nd birthday, a milestone he was celebrating with an exclusive dinner at one of the city's most sought-after restaurants. My son, Michael Vance, was a man who had always aimed for the stars, and tonight, he looked every inch the successful, ambitious professional he had become. He stood tall, a confident smile gracing his lips as he mingled effortlessly, his arm often around his wife, Sophia. Sophia, in her sleek charcoal designer dress, was a vision of poised grace, her laugh light and melodious as she charmed a group of well-dressed men and women who, I presumed, were the influential guests Michael had been so eager to impress. They moved through the room like royalty, perfectly attuned to each other, a power couple in their prime. I watched them for a moment, an odd mix of pride and longing swirling within me. Pride for the man Michael had become, longing for the days when his achievements felt more intimately connected to my own life. Finally, I caught his eye across the room. His smile, momentarily brilliant, faded slightly as he made his way toward me, weaving through the clusters of people. He reached me, offering a quick perfunctory hug that felt more like a social obligation than an embrace from a son. "Mom, you made it at it," he murmured, his eyes already scanning the room as if checking for someone more important. Sophia followed a moment later, her expression carefully neutral. "Eleanor," she greeted, her voice cool, like ice melting into a glass, acknowledging my presence without warmth. No hug, no touch, just a detached acknowledgement. I smiled, a practiced, brittle thing, trying to ignore the sting of their casual dismissiveness. It wasn't new, but tonight, on such a momentous occasion, it felt particularly acute. I thought back to everything, to the early mornings and late nights, the double shifts I worked to put him through the best schools, to the endless hours I spent nurturing his dreams, believing implicitly in his boundless potential. My mind drifted, as it often did, to the Westchester home, their grand, sprawling house, a symbol of their success, yet built on a foundation of my sacrifice. Just 6 years ago, when Michael and Sophia expressed their desire for a larger home, something truly fitting for Michael's burgeoning career and their social standing, I had been overjoyed. They painted a picture of a shared future, of family gatherings in the grand living room, of grandchildren playing in the sprawling garden. Michael, with his persuasive charm, had convinced me that investing in their home was investing in my own security, in our family's collective future. He said it was our home, a place for me to retreat to be near them. In my naive love and belief, I liquidated my entire retirement fund, every penny I had painstakingly saved over 4 decades. I handed it over, a hefty sum that secured their down payment, a significant portion of the house's value. My safety net, my golden years, all poured into their ambition. They had promised to pay me back, of course, or at least that's what I told myself. The reality was a loan that was never acknowledged as such, a gift taken with quiet expectation. Now I lived in a small apartment, the echoes of past prosperity a distant memory. Tonight, I was seated at a corner table, far from the central hub of activity where Michael and Sophia held court. My companions for the evening included a distant cousin I hadn't seen in years, a junior associate from Michael's firm who looked utterly bored, and an elderly neighbor of theirs who seemed to have wandered in by mistake. We were the periphery, the less important guests, politely tolerated but largely ignored. Every glance towards the main tables, where laughter and animated conversation flowed freely, served as a stark reminder of my place. Suddenly, a photographer began circulating, his flashbulbs illuminating the festive atmosphere. He moved from table to table, capturing radiant smiles, clinking glasses, and genuine moments of joy. I watched him approach Michael and Sophia's table, their faces instantly lighting up, posing with an effortless grace that seemed second nature. My heart swelled, a mother's natural pride, and I straightened in my seat, a small, hopeful smile touching my lips, imagining a photograph of me, perhaps, with my successful son. It would be a tangible memory, a small acknowledgement of my presence here tonight. But then Sophia detached herself from the group, her smile still fixed, and began to make her way towards my table. My hopeful smile faltered, a prickle of apprehension replacing it. She stopped beside my chair, her posture impeccable, her voice dropping to a low, polite tone that nonetheless carried an unmistakable edge. "Eleanor," she began, her gaze sweeping over my modest, if carefully chosen dress, "we're so glad you're here. But for Michael's firm's image, with the new partnership announcement coming up, it would be really helpful if you could perhaps step out of the photos." The words hung in the air, cold and precise, like slivers of glass. My blood ran cold. Step out of the photos. The implication was clear. I was not suitable for their image. I was a stain, a smudge on the pristine canvas of their carefully constructed success. Before I could even formulate a response, Michael, who had followed Sophia and stood a few paces behind her, chimed in, his voice devoid of any warmth. "It's just business, Mom, you understand. Professional appearances matter." His words were a swift, brutal confirmation of Sophia's veiled insult, a dagger plunged deep by his own hand. In that moment, a profound realization washed over me, heavy and suffocating. My son, my Michael, the boy I had raised, sacrificed for, believed in with every fiber of my being, was ashamed of me. He wasn't just embarrassed, he actively wanted to hide me. The Westchester house, the countless little favors, the financial support I had provided without question. It all coalesced into a bitter understanding. I was a relic from a past he wanted to forget, an inconvenient truth in his polished narrative. A memory flashed into my mind, sharp and painful. Just a week prior, Michael had casually called, needing a little help with some party arrangements for his birthday. He had asked to use my credit card, promising to pay me back next month, a promise that, like so many others, felt increasingly hollow. I had given it to him without hesitation, wanting to contribute, to feel involved. Now here I was, bankrolling my own humiliation. The irony was a cruel twist of the knife. I felt a tremor start deep within me, threatening to unravel the composure I had meticulously maintained. But years of practice, of biting my tongue and smoothing over their slights, kicked in. I forced a smile, a shaky, unconvincing facsimile of understanding. "Of course," I managed, my voice a little higher than usual. "Business is business. I completely understand." I looked from Sophia's triumphant smirk to Michael's averted gaze, a flicker of something new, something hard and cold, igniting in my chest. "I actually need to make a quick call," I added, using it as an excuse to escape the suffocating weight of their contempt. "I'll just step out for a moment." I pushed back my chair, nodding vaguely at my table companions, and walked away, my back ramrod straight, my head held high. I felt every eye on me, every whisper I imagined. I walked past the glittering tables, past the laughing faces, past the man who was supposed to be my son, until I reached the discreet door marked "Ladies." Inside, the silence of the marble-clad restroom was a stark contrast to the lively party outside. I locked the door of a stall, leaning my forehead against the cool, smooth surface. A deep, shuddering breath escaped me, followed by another. And then, finally, a quiet, solitary tear tracked a path down my cheek. It was a tear not of sadness, but of a profound, shattering realization. The illusion, the dream of a loving, grateful son, had finally, irrevocably shattered into a million pieces. The heavy oak door of the ladies' room stall closed with a soft thud, enveloping me in a cocoon of temporary solitude. The ornate gold mirror, the pristine white marble, the hushed silence, it all felt like an ironic counterpoint to the storm raging within me. My hand, surprisingly steady, reached into my small evening bag and retrieved my phone. There was no hesitation, no wavering. The decision, though born of a searing pain, was remarkably clear. With a calm I didn't entirely feel, I dialed the number for American Express, the card Michael had just used to arrange his grand, exclusive birthday celebration. The same celebration from which he and his wife had just asked me to remove myself for the sake of their image. An automated voice, bland and efficient, walked me through a series of prompts. I navigated them with practiced ease, waiting impatiently for a human connection. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a polite, disembodied voice belonging to a young man named Kevin greeted me. American Express, Kevin speaking. How may I assist you this evening, Miss Vance? Hello, Kevin, I began, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil beneath. I'd like to cancel my card, please. The platinum card ending in... I recited the numbers from memory. Certainly, Ms. Vance. May I ask the reason for cancellation? It's no longer needed, I stated simply, leaving out the deeply personal reasons that churned in my gut. Understood, Mrs. Vance. Before I proceed, I see a significant pending charge on your account. A transaction for $17,750 from Azure Restaurant. Is this correct? The number hit me with the force of a physical blow, even though I had anticipated something substantial. $17,750 for this party, for the exquisite meal, the premium wines, the impeccable service, the private room Michael had undoubtedly booked to host his influential friends and colleagues, all paid for with my card, the same card that would cover the very food and drink currently being consumed by the people who had just publicly humiliated me. My lips curved into a faint, bitter smile. Oh, the exquisite irony. No, Kevin, I replied, my voice now laced with an icy resolve. That charge is absolutely not correct. I want you to decline it immediately, and then proceed with the card cancellation. There was a slight pause on the other end, a hint of surprise in Kevin's voice. Declining such a large pending charge can sometimes cause issues with the merchant, Ms. Vance. Are you absolutely certain? Absolutely certain, Kevin. Decline the charge, then cancel the card. Effective immediately. My words were clipped, leaving no room for argument or doubt. This wasn't a request. It was an order. This wasn't about money. It was about reclaiming a sliver of dignity, a shred of control. It was about severing a tie that had become, a leash. Kevin, sensing the finality in my tone, quickly acquiesced. He asked me to confirm my identity, a series of questions about my address, my mother's maiden name, my social security number. Each answer was delivered with a crisp, unwavering clarity. As he processed the cancellation, the simple act felt monumental. It was like cutting an umbilical cord, severing a lifeline that had, for too long, only drained me. The card, that symbol of my financial support, and, I now realized, Michael's casual exploitation would be no more. With the phone call concluded, I placed my phone back in my bag. My fingers brushed against a thick, legal-sized envelope I had tucked away. I retrieved it, the smooth, heavy paper feeling cool against my skin. It was the deed to the Westchester house, the house Michael and Sophia so proudly called theirs own, the house built with my retirement savings. I had brought it tonight, wrapped in an expensive silk ribbon, intending to present it to Michael as a surprise gift, a formal transfer of ownership, an affirmation of my love and legacy. It was meant to be a gesture of enduring family connection, a final, unburdened gift to solidify their future. My way of saying, it's all yours, darling, with my blessing. Now the ribbon lay forgotten in my apartment. The deed, however, still held immense power. Exiting the restroom, I straightened my shoulders. My face, when I glanced in the mirror one last time, showed a quiet determination, the pain receding behind a mask of calm resolve. I bypassed my table without a glance, my gaze fixed on the cloakroom near the entrance. The young attendant, a polite girl with bright eyes, smiled at me. Could I trouble you to retrieve my coat, please? The old wool one, here's a ticket. I handed her the slip, resisting the urge to roll my eyes at the description. My old wool coat was a perfectly respectable, if understated, garment, but it felt miles away from the designer furs and cashmere wraps that adorn the racks. As she fetched my coat, I turned to the attendant. Could you direct me to the manager's office, please? I asked, my voice calm and polite. She seemed a little surprised, but pointed to a discreet door tucked away behind a decorative screen. Just past the main dining room, ma'am. I walked with purpose, the heavy wool of my coat draped over my arm. The manager's office was indeed where she'd indicated, a quiet space away from the celebratory din. I knocked gently. A distinguished-looking gentleman with a crisp white shirt and a perfectly knotted tie opened the door. He had an air of polite efficiency. "Mr. Laurent?" I inquired. "Yes, that's me. How may I help you, madam?" His eyes, though professional, held a hint of curiosity. Guests usually didn't seek out the manager mid-party unless there was a complaint. "My name is Eleanor Vance," I began, extending my hand for a brief, firm shake. "I'm here for my son's birthday party, Michael Vance. I just wanted to inform you that there might be a slight payment issue regarding the event this evening. Nothing to worry about. I'm sure it will be sorted. But just in case, this is my contact information." I handed him a small card with my name and phone number. My contact information, not Michael's. Mr. Laurent took the card, his brow furrowing slightly. "A payment issue, Mr. Vance? The arrangements were made some time ago and we typically secure—" "Indeed," I interrupted smoothly, cutting him off before he could delve into the specifics of Michael's credit arrangements. "But sometimes things come up. Anyway, I also have something here for Michael, a personal document. Could you ensure he receives it, but only after the party has concluded? I wouldn't want to interrupt his celebration." I reached into my bag and produced the envelope containing the deed. The manager's eyes widened slightly as he took the weighty document. He must have recognized it as something significant. "Certainly, Ms. Vance. I'll ensure Mr. Vance receives this. And you wish for me to mention nothing of our conversation until after the party?" "That would be most appreciated, Mr. Laurent," I confirmed, offering him a genuine, if fleeting, smile. "Thank you for your understanding." With that, I turned and walked away, not waiting for his response. Instead of heading back to the main entrance, I followed a discreet sign for staff exit. It led me through a bustling, fragrant kitchen, past busy chefs and scurrying waiters, and finally into the cool, refreshing night air of the alleyway behind the restaurant. A profound sense of lightness washed over me. The chill air on my face, carrying the mingled sense of city life and restaurant cooking, felt like a physical cleansing. The suffocating weight of disappointment, of being overlooked and dismissed, began to lift. I hailed a passing taxi, giving the driver the address of my modest hotel, a far cry from the luxurious establishments Michael and Sophia frequented. As the taxi pulled away from the opulent azure, a panorama of memories unfurled in my mind. The countless times I had bailed Michael out, the co-signing loans for cars he couldn't afford, the tuition fees for elite programs that promised him the world, the small business ventures that had inevitably failed, leaving me to pick up the financial pieces. And of course, the grandest of all, the down payment for the Westchester house. Each instance a testament to my unwavering love, but also a silent admission of my enabling. I gazed out at the city lights, blurring into streaks of gold and crimson. The question formed, sharp and clear, in the quiet confines of the taxi. Had I truly been a mother all these years, nurturing and guiding? Or had I simply been a convenient ATM, a never-ending source of funds, always ready to dispense cash with a smile and a blind, unquestioning loyalty? The answer, now brutally clear, stung like a whip. The modest hotel room, with its muted tones and functional furniture, felt like a sanctuary. As soon as I set my small handbag down on the bedside table, my phone, which I had deliberately kept silent until now, began to vibrate with an insistent urgency. The screen lit up, displaying Michael's name, then Sophia's, then Michael's again, in rapid succession. I watched the flurry of missed calls without a flicker of panic, a strange sense of calm settling over me. I knew exactly why they were calling. The waiter, or perhaps even Mr. Laurent himself, would have approached Michael and Sophia by now, discreetly informing them of the declined American Express card. I pictured the scene with a vivid, almost cinematic clarity. Michael, mid-sentence, perhaps charming a potential investor, would have been handed a discreet note or pulled aside for a whispered conversation. His smooth, confident facade would have crumbled, replaced by a flush of angry embarrassment. Sophia, ever the image-conscious partner, would have stiffened, her eyes darting nervously around the room, mortified at the potential public spectacle. The hushed whispers, the averted gazes, the sudden awkward silences. It would have been a humiliating spectacle for them, a stark contrast to the effortless glamour they had cultivated just hours before. A quiet, almost imperceptible smile touched my lips. For years, every one of Michael's emergencies had been my emergency. Every financial shortfall, every professional misstep, every demanding request had become a burden I reflexively shouldered. But tonight, that chain had been broken. His problem was no longer mine. The realization was liberating, a fresh gust of air in a long, stifling room. I silenced my phone completely, placing it face down on the table. I flipped on the television, finding solace in an old black and white movie, its familiar plot unfolding with comforting predictability. Outside, the weather mirrored the shift within me. A gentle patter began against the window pane, steadily growing into a soft, persistent rain. The rhythmic drumming against the glass provided a soothing backdrop to the dramatic, yet oddly comforting, narrative playing out on the screen. Around midnight, a sharp ping broke the silence. My phone, despite being silenced, vibrated across the bedside table. I picked it up, expecting another angry call, but it was a text message from an unknown number. My stomach tightened slightly as I read it. "How could you do this to your own son? You've ruined everything. You completely humiliated us tonight. This is unforgivable. Sophia." I read it twice, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "Ruined everything," she wrote. I pondered her definition of everything. Was it the carefully curated image, the potential partnership deal, the illusion of flawless success? It certainly wasn't the familial bond, for that had been ruined long before tonight, slowly eroded by neglect and casual disdain. Her self-righteous anger, however, felt almost validating. It meant my message had landed. Sleep came fitfully, punctuated by disjointed thoughts in the distant city sounds. A dream surfaced, vivid and poignant. I was much younger, standing in a quiet cemetery. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and wilting flowers. Beside me, a small 7-year-old Michael, his hand tucked tightly in mine, his face tear-streaked and confused. It was the day we buried his father, Arthur. My beloved Arthur, gone too soon, leaving us adrift. I remembered kneeling, pulling Michael close, his small body shaking with quiet sobs. "We'll be okay, Michael," I had whispered, my own voice thick with unshed tears. "Just you and me. We'll be okay." It had been a promise, a vow to protect him, to shield him from the harshness of the world. And for 42 years, I had held on to that promise, often at my own expense. The first rays of dawn, pale and hesitant, filtered through the huddle room curtains, ushering in a new day. My phone, when I finally dared to turn it over, was a blinking testament to the chaos I had unleashed. 12 missed calls from Michael, 5 from Sophia, a slew of angry, incoherent texts from both of them, interspersed with demands and accusations, and a series of voicemails, each one more shrill and exasperated than the last. I scrolled through them, not bothering to listen. Their words were predictable, their anger a familiar melody. Then a final text sent by Michael at 4:23 a.m. and stood out. "Found the deed. We need to talk." The simplicity of that message, coming after hours of furious silence, was chilling. Found the deed. It wasn't "thank you, Mom," or "what were you thinking?" It was a blunt statement of discovery, followed by an imperative. We need to talk. Not a request, but a demand for an explanation, for a resolution to his problem. The underlying assumption was still there, that I would explain myself, that I would somehow fix this for him, that I still owed him. A wave of weariness washed over me, heavy and familiar. The weight of my decision, the potential fallout, was undeniable. But beneath that weight, something else was stirring, a fragile yet insistent sense of purpose. For so long, my identity had been inextricably linked to Michael's needs, to his trajectory, to the role of mother who sacrifices. Now, a different kind of identity was beginning to emerge, an identity that remembered the young woman I was before Arthur, the woman who dreamed of travel and art, the woman whose aspirations had been gently set aside for the demands of family and motherhood. I sat up, pushing the blanket aside. Today was Sunday, I had vague, unspoken plans to meet Michael and Sophia for brunch, a customary ritual that usually felt more like an obligation. I pulled out my laptop, opening it to a fresh browser window. Instead of checking my email or planning my usual errands, I typed in Chelsea art galleries. Arthur, my late husband, had always harbored a quiet passion for art. We had often talked of spending our retirement exploring the galleries of New York, of losing ourselves in the vibrant world of creativity. It was a dream we had shared, a dream that had slowly faded into the background noise of life's demands. Now, as I scrolled through images of contemporary paintings and avant-garde sculptures, a spark of that old excitement rekindled within me. I spent the next hour researching, making mental notes of galleries that piqued my interest. The world outside, the world of Michael and Sophia's demands, faded into insignificance. This was for me. This was for Arthur. This was for a part of Eleanor Vance that had been dormant for far too long. Finally, I closed my laptop, the screen going dark. The demanding ping of Michael's latest email, "Mom, really, we need to discuss this. Dinner tonight?" went unanswered, unread. My path, for the first time in a long time, felt like it was truly my own. The grand halls of the Metropolitan Museum of Art offered a balm to my soul that Sunday morning. I drifted through galleries filled with ancient artifacts, Renaissance masterpieces, and vibrant modern art, each piece whispering stories of human creativity and enduring spirit. For hours, I allowed myself to be completely absorbed, reconnecting with a part of myself that had been dormant for too long. The Eleanor who found solace in wonder and beauty. The Eleanor who had dreamed of such cultural adventures with Arthur. The quiet reverence of the museum, the sheer artistry surrounding me, was a stark contrast to the transactional world Michael and Sophia inhabited, and it felt profoundly healing. My phone, tucked deep in my purse, continued its insistent buzzing, a distant, irritating fly I chose to ignore. It wasn't until lunchtime, when the gentle rumble of my stomach prompted me to seek out the museum cafe, that I finally checked my messages. The sheer volume of notifications was overwhelming, but one particular voicemail caught my attention. It was from the hotel concierge, his voice laced with polite concern. Michael and Sophia were in the lobby, demanding my room number, insisting it was an urgent family matter. He had, of course, refused, citing guest privacy. A slow, deliberate breath filled my lungs. They were at my hotel. The thought, instead of causing panic, solidified my resolve. They were pursuing me, demanding answers, on their terms. It was time to shift the dynamic. My terms. I considered my options, then composed a concise text message. Central Park, Bethesda Fountain, 2:00 p.m. I sent it to both Michael and Sophia, then slipped my phone back into my purse, a small, knowing smile playing on my lips. The walk from the museum to Central Park was a journey of introspection. The crisp autumn air, the vibrant hues of turning leaves, the distant sounds of city life. It all helped to ground me. I reviewed my thoughts, marshaling my arguments, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. This wasn't about anger or revenge anymore. It was about self-respect, about finally articulating the truth that had festered for too long. As I approached Bethesda Fountain, its majestic architecture and the iconic Angel of the Water statue rising gracefully against the backdrop of the autumnal trees, I spotted them immediately. They stood out, even amidst the bustling Sunday crowd. Michael, dressed in an impeccably tailored navy suit, was pacing impatiently near the fountain's edge. His phone clutched in his hand, his brow furrowed with agitation. Sophia, in a stylish camel-colored coat and designer scarf, sat rigidly on a nearby bench, her hands clasped tightly in front of her, her face a mask of strained composure. They looked like they had been waiting for a long time, the picture of disgruntled impatience. I walked towards them, my steps deliberate, my posture straight. Michael spotted me first, his head snapping up, his eyes narrowing. Sophia rose to her feet, her expression unreadable. "Mom, do you have any idea what you've done?" Michael's voice was sharp, cutting through the Pleasant Park sounds, laced with a raw, unadulterated fury. He didn't wait for me to get close, launching into his tirade the moment I was within earshot. "You completely humiliated me last night. My firm's partners were there. My clients. You ruined everything. I stopped a few feet away, meeting his furious gaze calmly. Yes, Michael, I replied, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil his accusations might once have caused. I imagine you were embarrassed. I understand that. Your reputation, your image, as Sophia so delicately put it, is very important to you. My emphasis on image was subtle but pointed. What I don't understand is why that reputation matters more than my feelings. Sophia stepped forward, her perfectly made-up face contorted into an expression of indignant disbelief. Eleanor, how can you even say that? After everything we've done for you, after what, Sophia? I interrupted, turning my gaze to her, my voice unwavering. After I funded the down payment for your Westchester home, which I might add you now officially own, thanks to the deed I left with Mr. Laurent. Her eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise and discomfort passing through them. Tell me, Sophia, since you are so concerned about everything, why was it so vital to ask your father for money recently, when you already had my money and now full ownership of such a valuable asset? Michael, who had been momentarily stunned by my directness, quickly recovered, his face reddening. That's beside the point, Mom. We were going to pay you back, for all of it, eventually, you know that. No, Michael, I countered, shaking my head slowly. That's precisely the point. And no, I don't know that. For years, I've heard variations of eventually, next month, or when the firm closes this big deal. But the repayments never materialized. Not for the house, not for the countless other loans you conveniently forgot about. I wasn't funding your future, Michael. I was funding a lifestyle for people who were apparently ashamed to be seen with me. Sophia's composure finally broke. That's not fair, Eleanor. We were never ashamed of you. How could you even suggest such a thing? Her voice was rising, drawing curious glances from passers-by. I held up a hand, silencing her. Weren't you, Sophia? Then explain to me, please, in front of your husband, why you specifically approached my table last night and asked me to step out of the photos for Michael's firm's image. I looked from her blanched face to Michael, who suddenly found the intricate stonework of the fountain incredibly fascinating. Why was my presence, my very existence at my own son's birthday party, a threat to your carefully constructed facade of success? Tell me, both of you, without resorting to platitudes or excuses. The air between us crackled with unspoken accusations, with years of resentment finally brought to the surface. Michael remained silent, his jaw clenched, his eyes still fixed on the ground. Sophia's face was a mask of furious denial, but her eyes, when they met mine, held a flicker of something akin to fear. They had no answer because the answer was painfully, undeniably clear. Michael finally stirred, pulling his gaze from the intricate stonework of the fountain. His face, still flushed, now held a hint of defensiveness. He attempted to salvage the situation, to mitigate Sophia's blatant disrespect. Mom, it wasn't like that. Sophia she meant it was just business. You know how important this partnership is for my career. He tried to catch my eye, searching for an old familiar empathy, a flicker of understanding that would let him off the hook. I met his gaze squarely, my own eyes clear and unwavering. Michael, I corrected him gently, using his full name as I often did when I needed him to truly listen. Family is personal. Always. There's no just business when it comes to the people you claim to love. When you prioritize a corporate image over your own mother's dignity, that's not business. That's a choice, a very personal choice. An uncomfortable silence descended upon us, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the distant laughter of children and the splash of the fountain. Life in Central Park continued around us, oblivious to the quiet implosion of a family relationship. A couple strolled by, hand in hand. A dog chased a frisbee. A street musician's saxophone wailed a mournful tune. We stood as if frozen in time, the unspoken truths hanging between us. Michael broke the silence, his voice now tinged with resentment. So, this is it then? You're just going to keep punishing us? Is that what this is, Mom? Some kind of spiteful revenge? He looked at me as if I had suddenly transformed into a vengeful stranger. Punishment, I repeated, a small, sad smile touching my lips. No, Michael, this isn't about punishment. This is about clarity. And for the record, I'm not the one who humiliated anyone. You and Sophia did that quite effectively yourselves. I turned my attention back to Sophia, who was still rigid on the bench, her jaw clenched. Sophia, tell me, honestly, if your own mother were at a party to celebrate your success, a party funded by her last cent, would you ask her to hide from the photographs? Would you imply her presence was detrimental to your image? Sophia flinched, her eyes darting nervously. Well, Eleanor, you have to understand, styles evolve, trends change. Your style is a little dated, perhaps, for such a high-profile event. Her voice trailed off, but the implication hung in the air, a final petty justification. Michael, sensing the deepening chasm, quickly jumped in, trying to soften her words. Sophia, stop. Mom, she just means, we could have helped you, taken you shopping, gotten you something more appropriate. He gestured vaguely, his attempt at diplomacy only making it worse. Shopping? I scoffed, a genuine laugh, cold and sharp, escaping me. Do you truly believe this is about clothes, Michael? Do you honestly think my dated style is the root cause of your shame? This isn't about fabric or fashion. This is about respect, about dignity, about whether you value the person who sacrificed everything for you, or if you simply see her as a financial resource, a means to an end. My voice rose slightly, the emotion finally cracking through my calm facade. Let me make something clear, I continued, my gaze sweeping between them, piercing through their evasions. That house in Westchester, it's yours, completely. Consider it the final payment for all the years of support, all the loans that never materialized, all the dreams I put on hold for yours. It's done. It's a clean slate. But from this moment forward, my finances are mine. My choices are mine. My life is mine. Michael's face, already pale, now seemed to drain of all color. A flicker of genuine panic flashed in his eyes as the true weight of my words sank in. He had always had me as a fallback, a safety net, an endless well of financial assistance. The realization that this well was now dry, irrevocably so, visibly shook him. His carefully constructed world, built on a foundation of my quiet generosity, was starting to crack. Mom, you can't be serious, he stammered, his voice losing its earlier anger, replaced by a desperate plea. This is crazy. You're my mother. You have an obligation. My parental obligation, Michael, was completed long ago, I stated, cutting him off. I raised you, educated you, loved you. I supported you through thick and thin, often at great personal cost. My duty was to make sure you could stand on your own 2 feet. And you are. You're a successful man, Michael, a partner at a prestigious firm, living in a beautiful home. You have everything you said you wanted. This isn't a misunderstanding, Michael. This is a moment of clarity. For me. Sophia, seeing Michael's distress, now stepped forward, her voice surprisingly soft, almost pleading. Eleanor, please, think about what you're doing. Michael's up for partner. This promotion is huge. We depend on you. We need your help right now. We always have. Her words, intended to sway me, only reinforced my resolve. Exactly, Sophia, I said, my voice hardening slightly. You see me as a need, as someone you depend on, not as someone you love, someone you respect, someone whose presence you cherish. You see me as a resource, and I am no longer available for extraction. I took a deep breath, the fresh park air filling my lungs. I've said what I needed to say. I turned, preparing to walk away. Mom, wait! Don't just leave! Michael's voice was strained, a desperate cry. We can talk about this. We can work something out. I paused, turning my head slightly, but not fully facing them. I'm going home tomorrow, Michael, to my apartment. If you truly want to talk, to really talk, about us, about family, not about your finances or how you can manipulate me again, then you know where to find me. Otherwise, I have a life to rebuild, a life for myself. And with that, I walked away, leaving them standing by the Bethesda fountain, a tableau of confusion and despair. The sadness was profound, a deep ache in my chest for the family I had once envisioned, the son I thought I knew. But there was no anger, only a quiet, resolute acceptance. The long, slow process of reclaiming myself had finally, truly begun. 3 weeks drifted by, marked by a profound and unyielding silence from Michael and Sophia. Not a call, not a text, not even a terse email. I had expected as much. Without the immediate incentive of financial assistance, without the urgent need to manipulate me back into their orbit, there was simply no reason for them to initiate contact. The absence of their usual demands, however, wasn't a void. It was a quiet confirmation of what I had always suspected. My value to them had been purely transactional. Back in my modest Vermont apartment, the rhythm of life was settling into a quiet, almost meditative routine. The familiar comfort of my own space, far removed from the glittering artifice of New York, felt grounding. Yet beneath the surface of this newfound peace, an internal shift was subtly but powerfully unfolding. It wasn't about anger anymore. It was about rediscovery. One rainy afternoon, a wave of nostalgia prompted me to pull out a dusty box from the back of my closet. Inside were old photo albums, their brittle pages filled with faded snapshots. I began to flip through them, a journey through time. There I was, a younger Eleanor, vibrant and full of dreams, clutching a tiny, swaddled Michael, my face radiating a fierce, protective love. Every image of infant Michael, then toddler Michael, spoke of an unconditional, all-consuming devotion. My heart ached with the memory of that pure, uncomplicated bond. Then came the stark shift, the photos after Arthur's death. My smile became strained, my eyes hollowed by grief and responsibility. Michael, no longer a carefree child, often appeared sullen, his small face reflecting the shadow of our loss. I remembered a particular photo, taken when he was a teenager, smiling broadly as he clutched tickets to a concert. I recalled selling a precious watch, a gift from Arthur, to afford those tickets, wanting to see that joy in his eyes. Was I always just a resource even then? As I continued through the albums, I noticed a pattern. Our interactions, once filled with shared laughter and simple moments, increasingly revolved around Michael's crises. His academic struggles, his early career setbacks, his urgent need for this or that. Each photograph, each memory, was now filtered through the lens of my recent realization. I saw myself constantly giving, always bending, perpetually available. His wedding album, glossy and expensive, felt particularly poignant. There I was, in the background of a few shots, politely smiling, blending in, an afterthought, a guest rather than a central figure in the union of my only child. It became painfully clear. The current of love had flowed primarily in one direction, from me to him. I had loved him with every fiber of my being, but his love, if it existed in the way I understood it, had been conditional, pragmatic. The quiet of my apartment, once soothing, now allowed these truths to echo loudly. I finally acknowledged my complicity. I had enabled Michael's entitlement, had allowed his demands to define my existence. I had, in essence, taught him that I was a bottomless well, always there to quench his thirst, no matter the cost to myself. The sharp ring of my landline, a sound I rarely heard these days, startled me. It was Helen, a dear friend from my book club, her voice warm and inviting. "Eleanor, darling, it's been too long. Margie and I are having a cozy dinner on Wednesday. Just us girls. You have to come." My first instinct, born of years of self-imposed isolation and prioritizing Michael's needs, was to decline, to murmur something about being busy. But then an almost imperceptible nudge from within pushed me to say, "Yes, Helen, I'd love to." The words felt foreign yet liberating. Wednesday night at Helen's felt like coming home. The aroma of Margaret's famous lasagna filled the air, the wine flowed freely, and the conversation was lively and genuine. Here, among these women who had known me for years, I felt seen, truly seen, not as a provider or a resource, but as Eleanor. They laughed at my jokes, listened to my stories, and shared their own lives with an openness I hadn't experienced in too long. Over coffee, Margaret turned to me, her eyes twinkling. "Eleanor, I remember you and Arthur used to be quite the photographers back in the day. Always had your cameras with you, capturing everything. What happened to that hobby?" A pang of wistfulness hit me. "Oh, life happened, Margie," I replied, a tired cliche. "After Arthur, well, there was so much to do, so much to take care of. Hobbies and personal pleasures they just stopped being a priority. My voice trailed off, the admission hanging in the air. Helen reached across the table, gently squeezing my hand. It's never too late, my dear. We were just talking about those evening photography classes down at the community center. Beginner friendly, they said. Why don't you look into it? The idea, initially startling, began to germinate. Photography, a forgotten passion, a shared joy with Arthur, a world of beauty waiting to be captured through a lens. I spent the next few days mulling it over, battling the old voices of self-doubt and the lingering sense of obligation. But this time, the new, stronger Eleanor prevailed. I called the community center, inquired about the classes, and with a tremor of excitement enrolled. I paid with my own credit card, the one American Express had just sent me, a fresh start. Barely an hour after I confirmed my enrollment, my phone chimed with a new email. It was from Michael. The subject line read, "Touching base, how are things?" A thinly veiled attempt at reconciliation, I thought, but I knew the true motive would soon follow. And it did, buried halfway down the email amidst polite inquiries about my health. "Mom, look, I know things have been difficult, but we have a rather urgent situation. The property taxes for the Westchester house are due next month, and they're higher than we anticipated. It's about $12,400. Any chance you could help us out? Just this once? We'll figure out a way to pay you back. I promise." The familiar pull of maternal obligation, of wanting to rescue him, tugged at my heart. It was a reflex, deeply ingrained. But then, the image of Sophia's dismissive face, Michael's averted gaze, and my own quiet resolve at Bethesda Fountain flooded my mind. No, not this time. My self-worth, my own burgeoning life, was no longer for sale. I composed my reply, concise and firm. "Michael, I'm doing well, thank you. I've actually just enrolled in a photography class, something I've wanted to do for a long time. Regarding the property taxes for the Westchester house, as we discussed, that property is now fully yours. The financial responsibility, therefore, rests entirely with you and Sophia. I trust you'll be able to manage it." I pressed send, a profound sense of peace washing over me. Later that evening, I went to my study, pulling Arthur's old Nikon camera from its leather case. It felt heavy and solid in my hands, a relic from another life. I dusted it off, adjusted the focus, listening to the soft whir of the lens. The quiet click of the shutter as I pressed it wasn't just capturing an image, it was breaking a long, self-imposed silence. The next 6 months unfurled like a carefully composed series of photographs, each day a new frame capturing Eleanor Vance's profound journey of rediscovery. My apartment, once a quiet sanctuary, transformed into a bustling creative space. Arthur's old Nikon still held a special place, but soon, with savings accumulated from careful budgeting and a renewed sense of purpose, I invested in a sleek new digital camera, a symbol of my future, not just my past. I devoured photography books, spent hours experimenting with light and shadow, and eagerly absorbed every lesson from Professor Davies, my instructor at the community center. Photography became more than a hobby. It was an exploration, a meditation. I found myself drawn to capturing the quiet dignity of everyday life, the subtle expressions that betray deep emotion. My particular passion emerged in portraiture, especially of the elderly. I volunteered at a local nursing home, spending hours with residents, listening to their stories, and capturing the wisdom and resilience etched on their faces. One evening, after class, Professor Davies, a kind man with a weathered face and an artist's discerning eye, held up one of my black and white portraits. An elderly woman, her eyes clouded with memory, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Eleanor," he began, his voice sincere, "this is truly remarkable. There's a raw honesty in your work, particularly these nursing home portraits. You have a rare gift for capturing not just a likeness, but the very soul of your subjects. The emotion is powerful." In the past, my reflex would have been to deflect, to downplay the compliment with self-deprecating humor. But something had changed. I looked at the photograph, then at Professor Davies and simply said, "Thank you, Professor. That means a great deal to me." It was a small moment, but significant. I was learning to own my talents, to accept praise without apology. Helen, ever my staunch supporter, became a vocal advocate for my artistic pursuits. Over coffee one afternoon, she leaned forward, her eyes bright. "Eleanor, you have to exhibit your work. Seriously. You're an artist, darling. It's time you started believing it." I demurred, as was my habit. "Oh, Helen, I'm just a beginner. My little snapshots compared to—" "Nonsense," she declared, cutting me off with a wave of her hand. "Your little snapshots capture more feeling than half the stuff I see in Barlowan's. The community center is holding their annual juried exhibition next month. You absolutely must submit something." Helen's unwavering belief was infectious. After much internal debate, fueled by a nascent confidence I hadn't known I possessed, I decided to take the plunge. I selected 10 of my best images, mostly portraits from the nursing home, and sent them off for professional printing. The cost, paid for with my own money, felt less like an expense and more like an investment in myself. A week later, I carefully framed them, each one a testament to my journey, my burgeoning passion. 2 weeks after submitting, I received an email. My photographs had been accepted. My heart swelled with a quiet pride I hadn't felt in decades. On the designated day, I drove to the community center, my hands trembling slightly as I watched the gallery assistant carefully hang my framed prints. Seeing them displayed, bathed in the soft gallery lighting, transformed them from personal endeavors into public declarations. They were beautiful. They were mine. The gallery assistant, a young woman with an earnest demeanor, stepped back, admiring my work. "These are really powerful, Ms. Vance," she commented, turning to me. "Especially the portraits. You can feel their stories." Her words resonated, adding another layer of affirmation to my burgeoning self-belief. It was late Friday afternoon, just as I was making a mental checklist for the exhibition opening the following night, that my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, yet a flicker of intuition told me who it was. My heart gave a strange flutter, a mix of apprehension and a deep, maternal ache. I answered. "Mom?" Michael's voice. It was tight, less confident than I remembered, stripped of its usual bravado. 6 months, 6 long months since we had spoken. "Mom, can we talk? In person? I really think we need to." His plea was unexpected, yet unsurprising. I knew that property taxes would have been a substantial burden, and I suspected other financial strains might have arisen. My resolve was firm, but the sound of his voice, however strained, still stirred something deep within me. "Michael," I replied, my voice calm, controlled. "That's quite a request after 6 months of silence. As it happens, I have an exhibition opening tomorrow night at the Community Center Gallery here in Vermont. My photographs are being featured." There was a beat of stunned silence on the other end of the line. I could almost picture his confused expression, the wheels turning as he tried to reconcile mom with exhibition. "An exhibition? Your photographs?" he stammered, clearly taken aback. "Yes," I confirmed, a small, knowing smile playing on my lips. "My photographs. The opening is from 7 to 9. You're welcome to come. We can talk afterward if you're still inclined." Another pause, longer this time. I heard him take a shaky breath. "Okay, Mom. Okay, I'll be there. Tomorrow night." The call ended, leaving me with a complex tapestry of emotions. Wariness, certainly. I knew Michael's history, his motivations. But beneath the caution, a persistent maternal yearning for reconciliation stirred. The hope that he might truly see me, truly hear me, after all these years. This wasn't just about him anymore, though. This was about me. I resolved then and there that when Michael walked into that gallery tomorrow night, he wouldn't be meeting just his mother, the woman he had always taken for granted. He would be meeting Eleanor Vance, the photographer, an artist, a woman who had, against all odds, found her own voice, her own worth. The air in the community center gallery hummed with anticipation, a pleasant murmur of voices and the soft clinking of glasses. For the exhibition opening, I had chosen a simple, elegant dress, a deep emerald green that brought out the color of my eyes. Around my neck, I wore the delicate silver chain Arthur had given me for our 10th anniversary, and in my ears, the matching earrings. They were symbols not of past loss, but of enduring love and the strength it had given me. Helen arrived early, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She gave me a tight hug, her voice a warm whisper. Remember, Eleanor, this is your night. You owe Michael nothing. This is about you." Her words were a comforting shield against the apprehension that still gnawed at the edges of my newfound confidence. Soon, guests began to arrive. Friends, fellow art enthusiasts, even some of my portrait subjects from the nursing home, their faces beaming. They moved through the gallery, pausing at each photograph, their expressions thoughtful, their comments sincere. "These are so powerful, Eleanor," one woman said, gazing at a portrait of an elderly man whose eyes held a lifetime of stories. "You really capture their dignity." Another commented on the subtle interplay of light and shadow, the ability to find beauty in the weathered lines of a face. I accepted their praise with a genuine smile, no longer deflecting, simply absorbing the affirmation. At precisely 7:30, the entrance door opened again, and a sudden hush seemed to fall over my section of the gallery. Michael and Sophia stood framed in the doorway, looking distinctly out of place in their expensive city clothes. Michael's tailored suit now seemed a little loose, his face thinner, his usual confident posture subtly slumped. Sophia, though still impeccably dressed, appeared less polished, her usual effortless sheen somewhat dulled. They looked like tourists who had mistakenly wandered into a local event, their discomfort palpable. Michael approached first, his movements stiff. "Mom," he managed, his voice carefully neutral. "Congratulations. This is quite something." His eyes darted around, taking in the framed photographs, a flicker of genuine surprise in their depths. "Thank you, Michael," I replied, my voice steady. "Sophia, I'm glad you could make it." Sophia offered a tight, almost imperceptible nod. "It's interesting, Eleanor, very unique," she murmured, her eyes scanning the wall as if searching for an escape route. I decided to take them on a brief tour of my section. As I spoke about the subjects, the light, the stories behind each image, Michael checked his watch, a subtle gesture that did not escape my notice. Their discomfort was a mirror to my past self, but I found myself surprisingly detached, watching them almost as an objective observer. Just then, Professor Davies approached, a broad smile on his face. He extended a hand to me, his grip firm. "Eleanor, congratulations. Your work is truly remarkable. I've been telling everyone how distinctive your style is." He then turned to Michael and Sophia. "You must be very proud. Eleanor is a genuine talent, a true artist, and soon, I hope, a colleague." Michael's surprise was evident. "Mom takes this so seriously," he interjected, a hint of incredulity in his voice, as if he couldn't quite reconcile his image of me with the praise of an art professor. Professor Davies chuckled. "Oh, she certainly does, and deservedly so. In fact," he continued, turning back to me, his voice brimming with excitement, "I just had a call from the Western Vermont Arts Council. They were deeply moved by your nursing home series. They want to feature your portraits in their upcoming Faces of Vermont major exhibition." The news hit me like a joyful wave. Stunned and utterly delighted, I could only manage a breathless, They do?" It was a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, a validation that transcended any need for external approval. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Michael and Sophia's expressions shift. The disdain, the boredom, the casual dismissal, it all dissolved, replaced by a sudden, calculating reassessment. The air around them seemed to thicken with unspoken implications. After Professor Davies moved on to greet other guests, Michael cleared his throat. "Mom," he said, his voice softer, more hesitant. "Can we talk privately?" I led them to a quiet corner, near a less frequented landscape piece. Michael took a deep breath. "Mom, Shaman," he began, his gaze fixed on the floor. I was let go from the firm 4 months ago. The partnership fell through, and we had to sell the Westchester house." A genuine pang of sympathy went through me. Despite everything, he was still my son. "Oh, Michael, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's terrible news." Sophia chimed in, her voice thin and reedy. "It's been a nightmare, Eleanor. A complete disaster. We've been living in a tiny rental, trying to figure things out." I listened, my sympathy tinged with a painful clarity. 4 months. They had gone 4 months without contacting me, only reaching out now that their situation was dire. It was a stark confirmation. I was not a mother to be cherished, but a bank to be accessed. I understand this is difficult, I said, but why wait until now to tell me? Why didn't you reach out when this first happened? Michael finally met my gaze, a plea in his eyes. We were trying to handle it ourselves, Mom, but we can't. We need your help. We're looking at a smaller condo in New Jersey, but we need about $60,000 for the down payment, just to get us back on our feet. I listened to his request, the familiar knot of old obligation tightening, then loosening. This time it didn't take hold. Michael, I said, my voice gentle but firm, my retirement accounts are for my retirement. I'm 60 years. I need that security. It's all I have left for my future. I can't give you $60,000. Sophia gasped. After everything we've done for you, she exclaimed, her voice rising in disbelief. And what exactly have you done for me, Sophia? I challenged her, my eyes narrowing. Besides asking me to hide from photographs at my own son's birthday party and viewing me as a limitless financial resource, Michael interjected, his anger flaring. This is unbelievable, Mom. You're just abandoning us after one mistake. I haven't abandoned you, Michael, I corrected him calmly. My door is open. My heart is open. I can offer you advice, emotional support, a place to stay temporarily if you need it here in Vermont while you sort things out. But I cannot offer you more financial aid. Sophia looked horrified. Stay in Vermont. Eleanor, our entire life is in New York. Our friends, our connections, Michael's network. Then you'll have to find a solution that fits your budget and your aspirations, I stated, my voice unwavering. My capacity to fund your lifestyle or to bail you out of every crisis is simply gone. I've given you everything I had. They stood there for a moment, stunned. Then Michael's face hardened. Sophia, her eyes blazing, delivered a parting shot. Fine, Eleanor, but when you're old and alone, remember you turned your back on your own family. I remained seated, meeting her gaze steadily. Family, Sophia, is built on mutual respect, genuine care, and unconditional love, not on financial transactions or convenient access to someone's bank account. Michael stepped closer, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. You'll regret this, Mom. When you're sick and need someone, you'll be all alone. I looked at my son, a deep sorrow in my heart, but no regret. I am truly sorry you feel that way, Michael, I said, my voice filled with a quiet dignity. My door and my heart are always open for you, but my bank account is not. They turned and walked away, their expensive clothes seeming to shrink their figures as they exited the gallery, leaving the vibrant hum of my new life behind. As the door swung shut, a profound sense of peace settled over me. The crushing weight of guilt, a companion for so long, had finally been replaced by a quiet, unwavering clarity. The rest of the evening was a blur of genuine congratulations, thoughtful inquiries about purchasing my work, and even an offer to teach a photography workshop. I felt a surge of vitality, a joy I hadn't known in years. Later that night, back in the quiet sanctuary of my apartment, my phone chimed. It was Michael. Mom, I'm sorry if I upset you. Please, just reconsider. It's a temporary setback. I composed my reply carefully. Michael, I love you. My position on financial support remains unchanged. But if you truly want to rebuild our relationship, I'm here. For advice, for comfort, for emotional support. For you, the person, not the financial burden. His final text came almost immediately. That's not enough. I set down the phone, a deep sigh escaping me. Sorrow, yes, but regret, no. I walked over to the small table where a framed photo of young Michael, smiling innocently, still sat. I picked it up, tracing his face with my thumb. I hope you find your way back, my darling boy, I whispered to the image. Back to me, not to my wallet. I climbed into bed, pulling the covers up to my chin. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Eleanor Vance slept peacefully, living life on her own terms.